gonna work out, John. It's gonna work out. Listen to Dutch.
Now, I don't expect you to understand this, but I have never been more proud of you than I am right now, brother. You're doing the right thing.
If I don't get that boy back safe, she'll kill us all.
I know, but looking at this logically, well, that boy is fine. They took him to scare us. Nobody takes a boy to harm him.
He's right, John.
What do you think, Arthur?
The boy will be fine. But, well, of course Marston's scared rotten. I mean, we killed all those people. We stirred up all that trouble. For nothing.
No, not for nothing. For living.
Hello again, and welcome to episode 5 of PlayStation Pals, a video game podcast. I am your host, Nick, and I am joined by the Chris Redfield to my Jill Valentine, John. John, is Chris Redfield your favorite Resident Evil character?
No, I'd probably say no. Thinking about my favorite Resident Evil characters, honestly, I probably think of like Mr. X first. I don't even think of any of the main cast because I don't play those games for the characters. I play them for the spooky scares. So yeah, that's probably off the top of my head.
Mr. X is a good choice. He's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's too cliche at this day and age to say Lady D or anything like that, but. I don't have the traditional Chris Leons, Jills of the world really anywhere special for me. So yeah, I kind of just think of the scary guys.
All right, well yeah, I like Jill. Resident Evil Remake is my favorite game in the franchise, and I always liked the Jill campaign. I probably played it so many times when I was a kid on GameCube. So.
Yeah. Actually, I have a different answer. It's the shopkeeper from Resident Evil 4. He's the best. What you buying?
Well, is he going to be he's going to be in the remake, right? They got to have him there, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I feel like even in Village, they had I don't remember his name, but the shopkeeper, big dude. I feel like that itself was an homage to the shopkeeper from 4. So there would be a general outcry. There would be many Kotaku articles written if they did the remake and didn't have him in there. So yeah. I think we'll get him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, enough of that daddling. Let's get into the format of the show. So if this is your first time joining us, this is how it works. I'm going to be three things. John's going to be three things, and it can be anything. It can be a video game we're playing, a topic, a news article, an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com. Any of those things, we're going to bring them. We're going to talk about them, and we got kind of a mixed bag this week, as there's a little bit of news, a little bit of games we've been playing, and a little bit of topics. So I'm going to kick things off, and we're going to talk about an announcement that just happened today, earlier, on the PlayStation blog, is that they announced the new PlayStation Plus premium games. So if you're unfamiliar, if you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, there's 2 additional tiers. They're kind of like the Xbox Game Pass equivalent. They just rolled this out last month, and this is the first batch of new games that they're bringing. They're not removing anything, so in that blog post, they didn't mention they were going to remove anything, but I'm just going to kind of bring up the highlights here. So the big one that we've already known about is Stray. It's going to be on the PlayStation Plus extra tier day and date with its release. So if you're already subscribed, you're going to get that game for free. You don't have to buy it. And then they're also bringing FF7 Intergrade, the PS5 upgrade to Final Fantasy VII Remake. And with that, they're going to bring the Yuffie DLC that they just launched last year. That's going to be packaged with this. And then the other big game is Marvel's Avengers, which has kind of been rocky. It could be a good game. I haven't played it, so I don't have an honest opinion, but maybe I will now. But I want to get your thoughts, John. There's also a handful of Assassin's Creed games, older games, Saints Row, and then a bunch of kid games. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think of what they're dropping here in July.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first off, everybody out there, just want you all to know, Nick over here is probably the biggest Marvel fan I know. And so the fact that he's not playing Avengers, I'm just going to say look into it before you say, oh, cool, an Avengers game. And honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, but just wanted to make that known. But I think overall, Nick, I think it's pretty solid. Honestly, you know, it's the first month that we're getting new games, so to kind of, you know, hit us with a brand new day and date release with Stray, even though it is a little bit of a smaller title, I think is kind of it's a good sign to people who have adopted this from the get-go that, hey, you know, we are going to give you some big hitters like Assassin's Creed, you know, things in franchises that we all know, but also, you know, you might get the opportunity to play a game that you might not have otherwise. You know, Stray, I think, is a pretty perfect choice for this, in the fact that, you know, it's a little more double A, a little more indie. You know, you play as a cat. Doesn't, you know, there might not even be combat in the game, so it's a game that, you know, I think there's going to be a decent amount of apprehension for amongst, just the general public, and so to give people the opportunity to play it at, you know, free in quotes, right? I know you have to upgrade for the perks, but you know, to just go in there and give it a shot is you know, I think a great thing, and you know, kind of telegraphs for potential months going forward that, you know, we might see a little bit more of this. And then to couple it with the, you know, the big games, the big Assassin's Creed games too, it's, you know, it's a nice little mix here. I think it's definitely on par with what Game Pass is doing. You know, I don't know if we want to continuously draw comparisons to Game Pass or not, but obviously that's what this service is at the end of the day. And just looking briefly here with what Game Pass has, you know, they have 3 Yakuza games, Far Cry 5, and some indie games. So, you know, another kind of, you know, a decent amount of games from a series, maybe one other big game, and then some small stuff. So I think if they can keep that cadence, and again, you know, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII at all, let alone the DLC like myself, then, you know, there's a little bit of something there for you there too. So, you know, if we're giving it a grade, I'm a grade. You know, I like to evaluate things. I would say it's a B plus, which is, you know, pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. My hope for the service is exactly what we're getting here, is maybe a little more indie games, a little more newer indie games. But other than that, yeah, a new indie game coupled with a couple older big games, that's perfect. That's pretty much what this should be, and is probably what it is going to be going forward. So this is a solid lineup. You know, like I said, it's just an added bonus to if you're not paying for it. But if you are paying for it, it's an added bonus. But if you're not paying for it, this is just added on to, you know, the 40, subtract how deep you are into your subscription price to upgrade. This just adds to all the existing games because nothing's getting removed. So this is really solid. I'm really impressed with this so far.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of put a little more perspective on it, you know, I haven't subscribed to this service yet. I plan to eventually, you know, whenever the right month comes. But I did subscribe to Game Pass for a little bit earlier in the year. And what I was kind of surprised to find when I did that was, like you said, Nick, how much I was drawn to the smaller titles, the indie titles that, you know, I might not have checked out otherwise. I wasn't jumping on Game Pass to play, you know, Halo Infinite or Doom Eternal, not these big things, but like I found myself like, oh, what's the Artful Escape, right? It's this weird game that I've heard some people like, some people don't. I probably wouldn't pay money for it. Well, I booted it up and I played the whole thing in 2 days. It was pretty cool, a nice short little experience. Yeah. So I think that people like yourself, right, that maybe don't typically focus on indie games, it's a great way to just get more eyeballs, get people to find that game that might surprise them, and they look back on very fondly. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, to tie that to your earlier point, that's what Stray exactly is, and why it fits so perfectly in this is not a lot of people are going to pay the $20 or the $15 that it costs up front, but now just as an added feature to a service you're already paying for, or an added bonus to all the other things in the service, that's great. You know,
right?
It's so far so good, but we're going to keep our eye on, you know, the coming months for what's coming to the PlayStation Plus extra tiers.
Definitely.
So moving on, going by the clip that you heard at the beginning of this podcast, John, what is our next news item / topic?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of this, similar to what we did last week talking about Ubisoft, kind of talk about Rockstar. And the reason that Rockstar is the focus is that this week there's been some reporting coming out saying that they're basically cutting all future updates to Red Dead 2 Online. There is a potential, this hasn't been confirmed by Rockstar, but inside sources say that they have shelved a potential next-gen port for GTA 4 and Red Dead 1. And it just kind of got me thinking, what is the trajectory of this studio? I don't think anybody would argue saying that Grand Theft Auto, with maybe the exception of Call of Duty, is the biggest gaming franchise in the planet. We know how much GTA 5 sold. We know how much money GTA Online brings. But it's upsetting for me as somebody who doesn't particularly like living games and games as a service that, we're going down this trajectory where, the biggest franchises and the biggest companies out there are just chasing dollars. And just wanted to kind of real quick here to kind of frame this, go over Rockstar's output from the first part of this, century to the last 10 years. So from 2001 to 2010, and then from 2010 to now. And I'm not going to read all these, or I guess I am going to read all these, but not all these are great games, but just kind of listen to this, Nick. It's pretty stunning, honestly, when I looked it up. So in 2001, we got Grand Theft Auto 3, Smuggler's Run 2, Max Payne 1. 2002, we get State of Emergency, Italian Job, and Vice City. So huge game there with two whatevers. 2003, we get Midnight Club 2, Max Payne 2, Manhunt. Then 2004, we get Red Dead Revolver, GTA San Andreas. 2005, Midnight Club 3, The Warriors, GTA Liberty City Stories. 2006, Bully, GTA Vice City Stories. 2007, Manhunt 2. 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4, Midnight Club, Los Angeles. 2009, GTA 4 Ballad of Gay Tony, GTA 4 Lost in the Damned, GTA The Chinatown Wars. And then in 2010, Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, all within that period. So, a good 15 to 20 games, some absolute legendary games in there with some middling stuff, right? And then from 2010 until now, we got LA Noire in 2011, we got Max Payne 3 in 2012, and then we got GTA 5 in 2013 and Red Dead 2 in 2018. So down to 4 games. And I understand games are more complex than they've ever been. They're more detailed. It requires more people to make these experiences. I understand we're never going to have a situation where we're getting 3 Grand Theft Auto games in a 4-year span. But it just worries me when you get these games that come out like Red Dead Redemption 2, unbelievably acclaimed, some people's favorite game of all time, and then to go into this online service where obviously you would hope as a fan they're going to feed off the success that they've built from Grand Theft Auto Online and implement it into Red Dead 2, and it just seems to have been abandoned. And it's not like these people playing this game have been quiet. They've been clamoring and asking Rockstar for a long time, hey, can we get some updates? Like, can we get the level of commitment that you guys have given to Grand Theft Auto into us, and maybe not that same level, but at least make it seem like you care. And for the company to kind of basically just come out and say, look, we're not going to do any more updates. We got to work on GTA 6. It's just a little, it feels a little gross to me. Rockstar is a team of 2,000 people. And I understand GTA 6 is going to probably have the biggest scope of maybe any game ever. I'm not going to deny that game's not going to be great, but it's just in an age where we see all these 1.5 teams, these, big companies like Naughty Dog seemingly having 3 teams going at one time. It's just at some point, I feel like it's important for a company to stop chasing dollars, stop trying to do whatever makes them the absolute most amount of money, and hey, we're gonna have a team of 30 to 40 guys that are just focused on, another small Bully title, maybe bringing Bully over to next gen consoles, doing these little remasters, just kind of trying to appease those people who maybe aren't into Rockstar games because they're these living, breathing service things, and it just seems like, I don't know if it's because it is a dollar thing. Maybe they got scared off from, the disastrous reception of the GTA trilogy that was released last year. But, that was a half-assed product through and through. So if the lesson they learned from those games was people don't like or remasters, then they're dead wrong. They just don't like half-assed things. So, yeah, I just, that kind of wanted to just, get that out there because, and I'm not even the biggest Rockstar fan. I see it time and time again within this industry that these companies are just, going after whatever the next trend is, free to play, started kind of with microtransactions back in the day and then getting into free to play and yada, yada, yada. I just don't want to see a situation 10, 15 years from now where, the niche titles are just single player things that don't generate money for 15 plus years. But I don't really have any questions lined up for you, Nick. But I mean, if you have any thoughts on all of that, or what you kind of think, because I know you are a big Rockstar fan. Yep. So what do you kind of want to see from the company going forward, and does it make you nervous a little bit seeing these kind of statements come out?
Well,
yeah.
Well, you're not alone on this. Aside from Electronic Arts, on Reddit, especially Reddit Gaming, Rockstar is probably the second most hated company on there because they're not releasing more games and doing things like canceling all these ports. So I have had a lot of time to think of this, but sometimes it's the reality of the situation. Not only did GTA 5 sell a lot, GTA 5 is the second most highest selling game of all time, 150 plus million copies. And Red Dead 2 also sold 40 million copies. These are huge blockbuster games. They're amazing, and they take time to make now. That's just the reality of it. We're not going to get 4 Grand Theft Autos in the several year period like we used to anymore. And then on top of that, because Grand Theft Auto 5 is selling so much, all their time in the last 10 years or so has been on Grand Theft Auto Online. Like Grand Theft Auto Online, from the time GTA 5 started, where they gave everyone $1 million because it was crap at the beginning. The first few months of that were really rocky. To what you can do in Grand Theft Auto 5 Online now and what all the content that's in there, it's incredible. That's where all that time and money's going. And I know I don't like it, you don't like it, but that's just the reality. That's where the players are. They're the ones spending all the money on all the shark cards, trying to buy all the fancy cars and the motorcycle that's also flies and all that other stuff. So that's where all that development time's going. So they've been busy. It's just, I understand the frustration. I understand the reality. Grand Theft Auto 5 is so successful. Grand Theft Auto 5 Online is so successful. So why they might as well. Like, nobody bought Red Dead Undead Nightmare. Nobody bought GTA 4 The Lost and the Damned. So people spoke with their wallet as much as the vocal minority on the internet likes to say. And even Red Dead Redemption 2 Online. Is anyone talking about that? Is anyone playing it? No, they're still going back to Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, including myself. I played Grand Theft Auto 5 Online more recently than I played Red Dead 2 Online, and I love Red Dead Redemption 2. So,
yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of the points you said, but do you not think, especially for a company like Rockstar, right? They have so much money that it's not beneficial to at least, respect your fan base enough to... again, 2,000 employees, man. I mean, FromSoft, the game or the team that just made Elden Ring, which anybody who's played that game knows how massive that is. They have 300 people, and it's just, I wish there's a world where companies would maybe eat a little bit of profit to just try and make as much of their fan base as happy. And I know that's unrealistic. It's just, it seems like if it's just getting closer and closer and closer to the reality that, like, now Rockstar is just the Grand Theft Auto company. No, Ubisoft is just the Assassin's Creed company. No, I mean, and Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla's just the Horizon team. And I don't like that, man. It's just... And luckily, we have indie developers out there that are kind of giving us those unique experiences. We're going to talk about one of those here in a little bit going forward. But it's just, I think you're right. I think it's the reality of the situation, and I have to adapt to it. But God damn it, I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, so the point you're making is how I always think of Valve. Like Valve has Steam, the PC marketplace, and they make insane amount of money. They're not a public company, so we don't actually know. But you make all this money. You're telling me you can't develop Half-Life 3, Portal 3, Left 4 Dead 3, Team Fortress 3, like you can't, new Counter-Strike, all these different things, like these beloved properties that would probably make their money back, like unless they're stinkers, but. Like,
that's kind of the other thing too. Is like, do you not think a remaster of GTA 4 and Red Dead would sell anything less than 15 million copies? Like, if you break away some people to do it, you're gonna make a profit. And it's just, I don't know. It's just weird, man. It's weird to me.
Yeah, we don't know the realities of development. Another thing we're going to talk about later, that the making games is very hard. So I don't know why these studios aren't willing to place these bets, especially when you have such incredible profits coming from your other games and your other services, that you would think that they would place a small bet on having a studio bring these older titles to modern consoles, or putting more content into Red Dead, even if maybe not everyone's going to be playing it. But I don't know. Business and men are making this decision, and I guess my final point on this is hopefully Grand Theft Auto 6 is like the most amazing thing on the planet. Like that, that'll shut everybody up if that happens.
I mean, it's not necessary. Obviously, that game's gonna sell no matter what. But it's just like, if it's not. And because that's the reason that they pulled all their teams off of everything. It's just like, no, we have to focus on GTA 6. We realize the expectations. But, like, there also is a future that Grand Theft Auto 6 is just Grand Theft Auto Online, And so hopefully there's still the dedication to the single-player story, because that's the only reason I would ever pick up one of those games. I don't want to play a game for years and years and years. Yeah. But again, I am becoming an old man who is not hip and cool, and definitely doesn't do all the things that all the other kids are doing. So, I guess that's just something I have to come to terms with.
To be fair, your Grand Theft Auto single player was never your thing either.
Shh, they're not supposed to know that, Nick.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not the only one. Yeah. But say like, The Last of Us multiplayer is your thing, then you'd be on the other side of the fence, be like, oh yeah, we want more content on here. I don't know if you'd ever say no to another Naughty Dog single player game. I don't think that's ever possible in lieu of more content for a multiplayer game that you were really into. But
no, it's not possible. No.
But I still think that their focus right now is like I mentioned, Grand Theft Auto Online for 5 didn't hit the ground running. It was really bad. So I imagine they want to hit the ground running on everything because all eyes are on Rockstar. They're probably the biggest game developer out there right now. That's why they're falling under so much scrutiny. And while we're bummed that we're not getting the passion projects that we want. If Grand Theft Auto 6 is great, then all is forgiven.
Yep. What have you done for me lately? And if they do that well, then we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, Nick, you want to take us into your second topic?
Yeah, so we're going to go into kind of some games we're playing. And I recently played and completed The Quarry. This is from Supermassive Games. They kind of did the 2015 Until Dawn. In between that time, they've also done a bunch of smaller games in the same vein, the Dark Pictures anthology, and basically they're movie games, kind of like the Netflix Bandersnatch, where you kind of choose your path. You're kind of playing through a movie. There's little minimal to no gameplay, and you kind of, your decisions determine how the story plays out. And kind of just like Until Dawn, there's a lot of similarities here. They got the all-star cast. The Quarry stars like Justice Smith from Detective Pikachu, David Arquette, Lance Henriksen from Aliens, and Ted Raimi. So a lot of familiar faces here. And I really enjoyed the game a lot. What they're doing with facial capture and animation is incredible. I think the story is more consistent this time around. they kind of simplified all the QTE stuff, so there's only kind of a couple now. You have your normal QTE, you have a hold your breath mini game, which is just hold the X button down and release it. They kind of have these little third-person combat encounters where you just kind of got to shoot something or not shoot it. It might be moving or not. And then they have this interruption mechanic where you can kind of interrupt where the story's going right now and interject yourself in there. But there's not a lot of people doing games like this, and definitely not to this quality of like acting and voice work and overall, production value. But it was great. I had a good time with it. It was about 15 hours. I do have do you got a question, John?
Yeah, kind of. So I guess it seemed like this was kind of a proving game for Supermassive, right? Is that, until Dawn came out, and it was one of those water cooler kind of games, I think, that just kind of gained a little bit of steam as more people started to talk about it. And so people got really excited about, okay, well, what are they going to do next? And then they come out with the Dark Pictures anthology games, which I've heard some people like them, but I don't think there's anybody out there that would say they're a step up from Until Dawn. So, it was refreshing to see that this game came out and it got received about as well as Until Dawn did. So I guess my question for you, Nick, is do you think that Supermassive has found their footing and that they have a bright future ahead of them, or do you think that they are going to be kind of this up and down studio that just sometimes hits it and sometimes doesn't?
So I haven't played the other games, the Man of Medans and the other titles in the Dark Picture anthology, and my guess is its budget is the difference here. So when they're given a decent budget to get these actors, to get put the time into the performance capture. 2K is publishing this one, so they had 2K's money, the Grand Theft Auto money, as they will. So they were able to put that time and energy into this, and I think that's probably not, as from what I can just tell from the trailers and what I've seen of the games that have been in between, is that they're smaller titles, they're shorter, it's kind of, there's not a lot of multiple paths like in this game. There's supposedly 186 different endings you can get in this game. So it seems like if they have the money and someone's willing to buy it, like hopefully they just got bought by, was it Nordisk?
Yeah, Nordisk.
By Nordisk. If Nordisk is willing to give them the time and energy into every title, and again, they keep perfecting it. Like the difference between this and Until Dawn is really apparent. The story's tighter. Like you said, the capture's better. The detail on the characters' faces is better. So it can only get better, So, yeah, I think they're at a good spot that everyone should be at least watching them and watching their titles because, they keep getting better and better. With that being said, it would be really nice if they got away from the horror setting. If you played Until Dawn, there is a lot of similar plot points. The game starts with two characters that something happens to. There's Wendigos in Until Dawn. There's werewolves in this. There's a mysterious third party in both games that you don't know what they're doing. There's the chapter interludes. In Until Dawn, you would meet Peter Stormare, who was kind of a psychologist, like trying to get your read on things. You have a similar character in this in between each chapter. And then the setting is very similar, where Until Dawn was set in a massive cabin with kind of like sub-cabins in other areas. It was a ski resort. And then same thing here. You're on a summer camp, which has multiple cabins and, the woods and everything else. So, boy, if they could just get to maybe even just step away from horror and just tell either a sci-fi story or just a regular, maybe similar to kind of Life is Strange story that's not so heavy on the monster of the week thing. I would be more excited for that. I don't know why they keep choosing to do monsters for every one of their games, but
even breaching into the Dark Pictures games, and also they've done some VR games. I know the Inpatient was their first VR game, and that was supposed to be an Until Dawn kind of spin-off. So even that was horror. I think the only thing that they've done was Bravo Team for PSVR, which is a shooter, but by all accounts, I've heard that's one of the worst VR games out there. So yeah, maybe they are comfortable in that setting, comfortable. You know, I guess are there gameplay mechanics in the Quarry that you think could only work for a horror game? Because I remember, at least in Until Dawn, there was moments where you couldn't move your controller, and I'm sure there's clever ways to make that, you know, that kind of thing not horror related. But I wonder what type of interactivity there could be for something, you know, with like sci-fi or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think like once you, like the horror element, yeah, you have to hide, right? Your character's always hiding, so they have the hold your breath mechanic here and the don't move your controller mechanic and Until Dawn. But if say, I don't know, maybe you're like a worker, you work in space, maybe like just keeping your character steady while like welding in space or welding underwater, you know, there's so many different gameplay elements that can come from I'm not always running from a monster and having to shoot it, you know, so... You know, I just think it's something they should explore because I think, yeah, that's been their output, you know, ever since Until Dawn has been horror game after horror game after horror game after horror game. And like I said, with the similarities that this has to Until Dawn, it's like maybe you should branch out a little bit, and a little different of genres, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like they would need to, I wonder, like, you know, now that they're bought, they can hire up a little bit and get some people that have a little more combat/gameplay experience and kind of meld some of the, you know, obviously they got the storytelling down, but meld like a little more kinetic gameplay into something. That could be something real special, yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, so it's a good game. I don't know if I would pay, because it is a $70 game. I'll put that out there. I would not pay $70 for it. You can play through it multiple times. There's definitely... it's time well spent if you plan on playing through it multiple times. But I imagine this will show up on PlayStation Plus Extra Tier. It would be perfect for an October game for them to do that. So yeah, good game. Just, you know, not a lot of people are doing this, so if it's your thing, try it out.
You just sparked an idea, Nick, is... You know, because spoiler alert, I'm planning on playing this game soon as well. I might want to just wait till October. Like that, I feel like that might not be a bad move. It's not too far away. It'll, you know, I'll be getting the vibes of Halloween. I might do that. I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah. It's the perfect game for that. So, but
cool.
We'll move on. You played a game, John. What did you play?
Yes, I did. So. This will be a quick one. You know, I don't have a ton to say, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. So, back in 2015, there was a little game that came out that kind of caught a lot of people by surprise. It's got a 93 on Metacritic, or OpenCritic, which is absolutely insane, and that game is Undertale. I've owned this game for probably a couple years now. I would say 3 or 4 games. I'm a recovering purchase games when they're on sale addict. That I'm trying to change that. And so I've been sitting on this game for a long time, and recently got my little platinum itch on. So I was just kind of scrolling through the games I've owned and decided on one of my days off that I was going to just try to do this again, because probably about a year or two ago I booted it up, and anybody who's played this game would tell you that it's a little bit jarring when you open it up. It's a 2D role-playing game, and so you get into the game and you're this little pixel-based character walking around this very plain-looking black background and talking to very strange characters, and then you get into a fight, and I'll talk about that here a little bit, but needless to say, I put it down. When I booted this up the other day, I played through the entire game in one sitting and got the platinum in one sitting. I liked it that much. So this game is developed by a guy named Toby Fox. He is a single developer. He's the only person who worked on this game, with the exception of an artist who helped him with some of the character design. So he programmed it, he wrote it, he did the music for it, and he was only 24 years old, which is insane. But this game hits on every single front. It's The music is some of the best music I've heard in a game in a long, long time. The story is actually thoughtful, that makes you kind of contemplate what you're doing throughout the game. The humor, I was belly laughing, which is a hard feat to do in video games, going through this game. I just couldn't put it down. I actually liked the characters that I was interacting with. And just to kind of give a little bit basic overview of the game for those who haven't played it is, again, it is a 2D role-playing game, so you're kind of just going from screen to screen. Think NES maybe is probably the closest system that for like the graphics. But you come across characters, and you can get through the entire game by fighting. You can get through the entire game by talking to enemies. So you get into a counter, and it'll be like, okay, do you want to fight them or do you want to act upon them? And so you can hit the act button. And just to kind of give a little example of the flavor of this game, one of the fights, right, is I approach a monster, and it's a ripped horse mermaid creature, right? and he's like getting the bodybuilding poses on, right? So you can he's got like the Fabio hair. He looks really silly, and so I hit act, and I'm like, okay, what are my options here? You're always going to get different options for the characters you're fighting that kind of relates to that character. And so that my option was to talk or to flex. And so I was like, well, yeah, okay, I'm going to flex. And so I flex on the other character, and he flexes right back. He's like, this character won't be showing up. He flexes. And so then I get it back. I flex again. He's like, he flexes even harder. I'm like, okay, where is this going? So I flex again. And then the commentary is like, he flexed so hard, he flexed out of the screen. And the little character just flies away, and it says, you won the fight. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's just so creative, the way that it subverts your expectations into thinking what this game is going to be, how it's going to be this little, rhythm based, like when you get into an actual fight with somebody, these lines come across the screen and you got to hit them at the right moment. If you hit it right in the middle, it does more damage. And then you have this little box that appears underneath the enemy design that kind of turns into this little bullet hell thing, where you have a little heart that you control to dodge at various pellets and things that are flying at your character. And they eventually implement more and more kind of mechanics into it, where there's some, certain things that fly at you that are blue that, you can't move, otherwise those will hurt you. So you kind of got to play around with that a little bit. But, it's just the overall package, man, where it's rare that a game will come across that really sticks with you and really kind of want to know everything about it. And this was one of those games. It's it's like in that Journey territory, right, where it's I've never played anything like this, and it just it's fantastic from top to bottom. So I wanted to talk about it today, because anybody who's ever heard of this game, who knows about it, who maybe had reservations about playing it, I promise you, if you get through this, or if you give it a fair shake, I would be surprised if you walk away from it, because it really is just that unique and that special of an experience that, I don't think I'll ever play anything like it again. And, that's both sad and cool in the same way. And so, Toby Fox is definitely somebody who's gotten my respect, and I'm more than happy to support his projects going forward. And I kind of understand now, because every once in a while I'll see something that's like, Toby Fox is doing music for X game. And I'm like, what, you mean the guy who did that weird little pixel, sprite-based thing? And like, well, yeah, I understand why. As you guys will hear, spoiler alert, one of the songs I think you're going to hear later is from this game. It's fantastic. But I just had to shout it out, because it truly is a 93. It truly is something that deserves everybody's attention, and hopefully I can convince Nick to play it. We'll see, because he typically doesn't like these smaller games, but anybody out there on the fence with it, definitely give it a shot. And it's going to age timelessly. This game will never feel dated. It'll never feel old because of the style that it inhibits. And yeah, man, truly one of those truly special games.
Yeah, it's an incredible story all around. It's, a single guy makes a game, and it's a 93. That's incredible.
It's insane.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so great to hear that you like it, and hear someone in person telling me about it, other than, kind of when you hear about things like this on the internet, when the fan base is kind of like Rick and Morty, where they kind of just like love it so much, they're really intense about it, that it's actually kind of turning off other people. And
I love this, and if you don't love it, you're a piece of shit. Oh, how could you not love this?
Yeah, and you maybe get like a short clip, and you're listening to Rick just burp and be gross all the time. And you're like, I don't understand what's here. And the same thing here. You pull. Okay, everyone loves this game. Let me pull up a clip, and you're like, what?
The hell is that?
What? Yeah, you're using a little heart to dodge things. That's how you fight in this game? I don't know about that. So like, it's nice to finally have somebody that I know that's played it and is like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime experience, It
is, man. It is. And just one other little encounter that, each encounter is unique. It's not your typical RPG where you're running into a Zubat 1,000 times, right? Or a slime from Dragon Quest. Every encounter is different. And there's one where this little dog kind of comes across. I'm like, okay, it's a little puppy. Like, I love dogs. That's cool. And like, the action on that one is pet, right, as you would assume. And you pet him, and he gets so excited, and his head grows a little taller. And you're like, well, that's weird. I'm going to pet him again. His head grows a little bit taller. You keep petting this dog, his head goes off the screen, and then you continuously pet him, and then his head turns back around in like a U-bend and starts coming down the screen. And he's just got his goofy little smile out the whole time, until eventually the game is telling you, be like, yo, you got to stop. You have a problem. Stop petting this dog. And it's little things like that, man, that you just don't come across anywhere else. And you really can kind of see into the mind of this creator, because I also think like that's just the kind of dialogue and kind of things that don't come out when you get a collaborative, because you get enough people into a room, there's going to be a naysayer here or there, there's going to be somebody that wants to play it a little bit safe, so to get somebody who has a vision, Ian X's vision, and for everybody, thank God, it's as good as it is, and we all get to enjoy it. It's something. It's pretty replayable too. Like I said, you can kill everybody. You get a genocide run, which gives you different endings. You can do a pacifist run, which gives you different endings, and the story itself is pretty impactful too. So I'll stop gushing about it now. But yeah, everybody else, man, go play that game.
Yeah, I think as we talk about what makes a great game is attention to detail. And when you're saying you have this boss fight that has this really unique mechanic. You just know, like, Toby went over and poured over this game. Every little detail is thought out, and every little detail has his touch on it to make it the whole game unique. That's pretty incredible. I think you mentioned, what is he working on next? Does he have another game coming?
So for a while now, he's been working on something called Deltarune, which is, for those puzzle fans out there, is Undertale. It's anagram, I think is the right one, where it's all spelled differently, or the letters are changed around. But he released Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of those games. Chapter 1, I believe, was in 2018, and Chapter 2 was last year. But I think he's got a little bit more ambitious. He's getting a little bit more ambitious, so he started to hire people and get a team to help develop it for him. But actually, looking at it now, it says once all chapters are complete, the game will be released as one whole package. He stated he does not have an anticipated timetable for completion. It is planned to only have one ending, blah, 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 regardless of choices. So, yeah, he is working on a follow-up to it. It looks like, if this is the NES version, this looks like the SNES version, a little more color, a little bit more fleshed out. Not crazy, but like a little bit. You can tell it's an update. So haven't checked those out yet. I do actually have Deltarune installed on my Switch, so one of these days when I'm looking for that kind of thing again, I'll jump into it. But he's definitely, and he's now he's only 30, so God willing, he likes making games and he wants to just keep doing it. And we might have 30 years of Toby Fox games, so we'll see.
And once you have a successful game, it's like he has all the time in the world to make the game. Like his bills are paid for quite a while. So.
Oh yeah.
All right, so moving on, I wanted to talk about a documentary called Raising Kratos. This was released on PlayStation's YouTube channel on May 10th of 2019. That kind of goes over the development of the 2018's God of War, from conception to to final product, to the game being released and all the accolades it received. I know you watched it too, John. I got a couple of thoughts I wanted to bring up, but what did you think of the documentary overall? Because I thought it was quite excellent. It was a great little vision into how games are made.
I definitely I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you guys haven't caught on yet, we like God of War, so needless to say, it was the perfect game for me to kind of dive into or to get that experience with, because it was a game I genuinely love and genuinely am happy to hear all the fine little details. But to kind of be able to follow a game director around, Cory Barlog being the director here, was pretty cool, because it just really showed you what his job is. You don't really understand what a director does until you just kind of watch them. They're just basically checking on all the pieces, making sure that we're hitting our deadlines, making sure that the vision is intact. And it was kind of a cool thing to see that they had the foresight to put a camera crew with these guys while they're making this new change in this new game. And and Corey himself is kind of one of those guys that's just fun to watch. It's like Tim Schafer being another example in the industry of just like these kind of, you can tell they're good dudes and have all the passion in the world behind what they're doing. So to kind of see them get through all the struggles that they did, one moment that really sticks out for me is when they were playtesting the game in the early stages, and pretty much all the feedback they were getting was that Atreus was basically OP, and that was up to that point, like the entire game was designed around Atreus, so they had to have a coming to Jesus, like, do we stick with our vision, or do we have to cut this guy and start from zero? And then just to watch them struggle with these decisions internally, to pull it off and release one of the best reviewed games of all time. And if anybody's never seen it, the YouTube video of Cory Barlog watching the moment that he sees the God of War review scores for the first time is one of those very wholesome videos. Just makes you feel good, and they had that in there too, which I was happy to see. So yeah, I hope to see more of these style documentaries. I mean, I think something like a Last of Us one would be super interesting, with how, maybe not The Last of Us specifically, but like something like that, right? Watching Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, act together, because we've seen time and time again they truly have a special relationship, and they're both fantastic at what they do. Like, that would be some interesting behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping that, we get more of these in the future, and couldn't have happened to a better game for me.
Yeah, I mean, the foresight, because the last game Sony Santa Monica released was 2014's God of War Ascension, which was not a well-received game, and then to have the foresight to be like, hey, let's record the cameras, and then, hey, we're going to go wildly and kind of soft reboot this game, and then have it pay off in such big way. Like, no one could foreshadow what would have happened,
No.
From the start of that game where they're talking about like, oh, I don't know if we want to do God of War, till, oh, here's us all accepting our Game of the Year award at the Game Awards, is like, whoa, yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
and just seeing like what game development's like, seeing Cory Barlog walk around and seeing all the game developers or the combat developers. Oh, here's the person programming the Valkyries in the game. Oh, here's this girl, she programs all the kill animation on the witches. She's, seeing them, take these animations and fit it into combat encounters. And then, like you said, seeing the QA testers play the game and watch a QA tester try and kill Atreus as Kratos. Like, you gotta laugh, like, cause they gotta think of these things, like they gotta think like, hey, someone out there is gonna try and hurt Atreus as Kratos, like some sick fuck out there, so so it's always great to see that. And then kind of the other thing that really stands out, and we've kind of seen before, going back to Last of Us with Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, when they talk about these characters, I really wanted to focus on the one Christopher Judge talked about Kratos, and they kind of get into their personal life of like, how, the things that they pull on to play these characters, and him and Danielle Bisutti, who plays Freya, they're brought to tears when they talk about like the personal relationships and their own personal life that they bring to these characters, and how they use those to to put themselves in the role of these characters. You know, to watch them, it breaks them to tears. Like, that's how devoted these people are and how personally connected they are to these characters. It's incredible. It makes me tear up. It's like, wow, like, and you understand why the performances are so strong.
You can really see the passion, and I'm sure that is not a coincidence on the final product of the game, and not just the actors, man. I mean, they were the three big, it seemed like, executives that they followed around was Cory Barlog, the director, Yumi Yang, and Shannon Studstill, who are, I don't know their official titles, but I want to say just, you know, executive producer type people, right? Yep. And they talked to them throughout the whole thing too, on just like the amount of sacrifice, like, you know, what did you have to sacrifice to make this game? And like literally Shannon had to say, like, I don't want to answer that question right now, as she started to tear up. And you can see, you know, kind of looking into it a little bit more, is because they're starting to question, am I spending too much time away from my family, from my kids? You know, is this worth it? Am I doing the right thing? You know, bringing in, that humanity into the experience, I think allowed the humanity of Kratos to come out a little bit more and really tell a story that resonated with, you know, everybody, but a lot, you know, parents, not parents especially, but you know what I'm saying. And, yeah, it's just they had the dream team and the dream scenario, and they took the right risks, and it all worked out, man.
Yeah, it's excellent. Again, like, as you get frustrated with game development, or you just want to watch a really cool documentary about an amazing game, check this out. It's free on YouTube. It runs about 2 hours. It's just incredible, since you know how the story plays out on top of everything. So definitely check it out if you're interested. It was a great watch. I speak for both of us. We both enjoyed it.
Well, one last thing too, I was really happy to see that they kind of had a big section in there about the E3 demo, which is one of my favorite video game memories in general. You know, if anybody watched that was with the live orchestra, and it was the first time they showed the game, and the whole staff was so scared. Like, they all went to the show and they're nervous about how people are going to receive it, and just to see that, you know, Corey's actually playing the game on stage, and when Kratos shows his face, and the entire crowd just erupts, and like you see the smiles on everybody's face, it's like you almost feel like you're a part of their team, like, and just the justification and the hard work paid off for you too, even though it didn't. So yeah, cool stuff, man.
Yep, incredible. So moving on, final topic of the week. Bring it, John.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, do a little bit of ranking here. So, you know, I like ranking. I like numbers. I like that kind of stuff. So, you know, this might not be the last time we do this, but I wanted to see if we could, have kind of our top 5 Sony first-party teams. You know, and this isn't based on any specific metric. This is just how our specific, you know, how you feel in your balls, you know, like what's the best team out there, you know, who is the most important, do they make the best games, whatever you want to bring to the table, Nick, whatever reasoning you picked for yours, you know, we'll kind of go with, because there's no rhyme or reason to any of this, but we decided to go with 5. We were going to do every first party team, but what I realized when I was starting to fill that out is just you start to get to, like, you know, London Studio and Media Molecule, who really hasn't made much in a long time, and Polyphony Digital, who only makes Gran Turismo. It's hard to compare teams like that, because inevitably you're just going to be biased towards what you like. So I'm just going to limit it to the top 5, and and if I have one, Nick, you know, shout it out, and vice versa to you.
Yep.
But do you want to go ahead and start with your number 5?
Yeah, I am going to start with my number 5, and it is because they make the best PlayStation 5 exclusive, called Astro's Playroom. Is the best game on PlayStation 5, and I mean only releasing on PlayStation 5. So Horizon doesn't count, and upcoming God of War doesn't count. And
Demon Souls would like a word with you.
It is better. I haven't played Demon Souls, so of course I can make that.
Yeah.
But so Team Asobi,
that's fair.
They are the developers of this. They're kind of a little bit of unsung heroes here, because not only is Astro's Playroom the shit of a game to launch on your console. Like, I know I roll my eyes every time a Reddit thread pops up that's like, you guys should really play Astro's Playroom. It's like, yeah, everyone knows that by now, okay?
No
you get a PlayStation 5, you're playing this game. But it is an amazing game. It's a short experience. It catalogs all the things great about PlayStation. It introduces you to the DualSense. Like, if you want to see what that thing can do, play that game because you're going to see everything on display there. It is fantastic game. It's, like I said, in my opinion, the best game on PlayStation 5 right now. You should be playing it, and it's free. And I haven't played all their other games. I know they released, the VR game that everyone loves. So, but I'm just really excited. If they say their next game is coming, which is probably coming to PlayStation VR, I'm really excited. Like that might get me in right there to get the buy into PlayStation VR if Team Asobi has a game coming with it. So.
Yeah, man, you nailed it. I also have Team Asobi as my number 5. So good pick. We're on the same page there. Everything you said, absolutely. To this date, there is not a better game that implements the DualSense into the game, and I really hope that some other developers start taking notice of what they did. But yeah, they're just they're really an up and coming team, man. I am a person who played Astrobot Rescue Mission VR, whatever.
There it is. Yeah, that's it.
As Rescue Mission, yeah. It's probably the best game I've ever played on VR. It's so creative. It plays with the structure of a 3D platformer that we've been used to since Super Mario 64. With the addition of the VR headset, you're able to move your head around this virtual space and allow to see hidden secrets and things around corners that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise if it was just a static camera. And you can just really see how much this team oozes with creativity and, thinking outside the box with some of their ideas. So definitely really excited for whatever Team Asobi is working on next, and it makes it a little bit easier because this is basically what Japan Studio died for, right? Is they got transitioned into Team Asobi. I think once Sony realized the potential of the Astrobot franchise, is it going to be the next is it going to be Sony's Mario? No, but it honestly is that good that it could be. If they are able to ratchet what they did, whether it's a VR game or even a standard regular TV type experience like Astro's Playroom, but bigger and better. It's going to be fantastic no matter which way. And I think now that everybody who's had a PlayStation has probably played this game, I think that has the potential for that franchise to blow up, the next time they come out with something. So, yeah, man, good on you for picking that number 5. I was not gonna shame you to forget about them, but they are pretty awesome.
Yep,
so.
I have not forgotten. All right, so I do think like a lot of studios have an advantage if they've released the game more recently. That definitely bumps them up. But one thing I will credit Sony for doing is letting these studios reinvent themselves, release a game that's kind of different than what they've been doing. And so my number 4 is Sucker Punch, as they did. Yeah, a lot of their studios can do this, so it couldn't apply to what I just said. But I wanted to bring up Sucker Punch because they were known for the Infamous series, and then they went to do something different, and they did Ghost of Tsushima. And this game is just gorgeous. It's beautiful. And yeah, it's an open world game, but it's doing a lot of cool things. For one, the load times on PlayStation 4 are non-existent. How did they do that?
Yeah,
How did they do that?
know, man.
It's insane. Second thing, they got rid of the HUD entirely. Do you want to know where you're going? Follow the wind. The wind will go through the trees and the flowers and the plants. That is such an amazing game design because that game is very beautiful. So let's get rid of all the HUD. Let's get rid of your mini map. Let's get rid of all that. It's just the game. Like you're just there. It's beautiful. That's smart. And then thirdly, okay, now I already forgot my third point here. Oh, they're a Western developer and they're doing a Japanese game. And for not only the Western audience, they're really attached to this game, but for the Japanese audience to love this game like they did, using it as a tourism campaign for the island that the game takes place on, it's just incredible. And again, not only did they reinvent themselves, but they challenged the open world genre and brought a bunch of great ideas to it. So that's what brings Sucker Punch to my number 4. Yeah,
I think the wind mechanic is one of those I don't know, generational is not the right word, but mechanics that you're going to remember for a long time. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that starting to get copied in a couple of years. Similar to the Nemesis system, it's just something that sticks out, something wholly unique that you've never seen before. And, I think we're all kind of surprised that that system hasn't been adopted a little bit more. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see some more, navigation systems, whether it's wind or something else that, is kind of tied into the world itself. But I had Sucker Punch in my honorable mentions. It was actually my number 6.
Okay.
But everything you said I agree with. It's just Ghost of Tsushima, I really liked it. It just didn't get to that upper echelon of exclusives, like the God of Wars and a couple others. Mm-hmm. I think that they have top 5 potential, no doubt. It's just there's just a couple other ones that I like a little bit more.
Sure.
All
right. Yeah. Well, what's your number 4?
Yeah, and so, much like you, I like teams that Sony allows to do something a little bit different than what they're normally used to doing. Because I for sure thought you were about to say this team, but Guerrilla. So Guerrilla, obviously, they recently released Horizon Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn. They're that team. But they're historically known for doing Killzone, right? And, Sony allowed them to pursue what they were passionate about, and it spawned one of their biggest franchises that they currently have going right now. I think Horizon has, it's kind of a meme almost at this point that they've had really bad luck with the games that release around them. But I don't think that takes anything away from how special their games are. Similarly to Ghost of Tsushima, this game, both of the Horizon games are absolutely gorgeous. I would probably, if you had to get me to say some game, but Horizon Forbidden West would be the most beautiful game I've ever played. I think the story, while it gets kind of at times, is at least engaging. Aloy is at least a character that I care about and want to and don't mind playing for a good 30 or 40 hours. And I'd be really interested to see, if that team is just going to continue with Horizon or if they're going to go off and branch off and do something else. I believe they've really gained with their employee size as of late, so they could easily have a couple teams going at any given time. Mm-hmm. But they're definitely found their footing with Horizon, and I think that they're one of their better teams, and not to mention, they developed the Decima engine, which is what Death Stranding used. It's what some other games have used. So they have some of those kind of chops there too, which is not an easy thing to do, to make an engine itself. So gotta shout out Guerrilla over there. Yep.
Yeah. Great studio. They are not in my top 5, but if we expanded this, they would be probably my number 6 because they take that Ubisoft formula and punch its teeth in. Graphics better, enemy design better, gameplay better. Like, it's just,
Animations.
Animations, everything top tier. Open world perfection. Yeah, is it formulaic? Is it like a lot of open world? Yeah, but it's doing everything they're doing better and bigger. It's incredible. Like, for a first-person shooter studio,
Right, exactly. Exactly.
All right, so moving on to my number 3. I don't think I really need to explain anymore. It's Sony Santa Monica. To be able to reboot God of War, incredible. We've already talked so much about them. Most anticipated game of this year is a Sony Santa Monica studio game, so they're incredible. I don't have much more to say because they've been on our show, I think, four episodes now. This is the 4th one we brought up their studio, so I don't have much more to say. I'll let you, if you got them on your list, John, say your piece.
No, man, they are also my number 3.
Okay.
They're right there. When you create, in my opinion, the best exclusive on this system, you got to at least be in the top 3. And I think the only thing that I would want to see out of Sony Santa Monica is do something besides God of War. And I'm not saying stop making God of War, because I could play that stuff until it dies, but maybe they can scale up a little bit and do something smaller. But I believe they've only done God of War games since the first God of War.
Yes.
So, it's one of those things that, could they do a Guerrilla Sucker Punch transformation, or is this really just their bread and butter and what they're sticking with? So I think, I know that the next God of War is the end of the Norse saga, so I would bet that they're going to do something else before they maybe go back to God of War in the future. I think that. I think that that's likely because even when they were, when we watched Raising Kratos, they were kind of, bouncing around the idea of do we even go back to God of War? So, I'm sure they have some other ideas. Cory Barlog has been rumored to, or they were rumored to be working on some sort of space game, which I think could be super cool to see a team like that, develop something, that you can get as crazy with as a space game. But, yeah, man, Sony Santa Monica, what else can you say?
Yeah. All right, so moving on. I'm sure this team
I'm sure we have the same top two.
Yes, the question is where they're placed. So
sure.
My number 2 is Naughty Dog. I don't think much more needs to be said. They're responsible for the Uncharted series, the Last of Us series. While I've kind of burned out on their games in the past, Uncharted 1 through 3, I kind of was like, I want to be done with this because I never thought that their shooting was always a great mechanic. But
right.
Last of Us 2 was perfection. Great story. The gameplay was the best it's ever been. Felt so good to actually play that I was there the whole time. And, if it wasn't for the story just beating the shit out of my soul, I probably would have played through it again, which I couldn't say for other previous Naughty Dog titles. So yeah, that's my piece on them. Not shocking. One of the best developers in the world for years now. The question is, where do you got them ranked, John? Are they your number 1 or 2?
Oh, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but my number 2 is Insomniac Games. So, yeah, Naughty Dog's my number 1. We'll get there in a second. But Insomniac is my number 2, which I'm going to assume is your number 1.
Yep.
But, just to kind of talk about them real quick, this is the steal of the century, my friend. Sony bought this team for $229 million, which, surface level, that's more money than I'll ever see in my life. So, not saying that. But when you consider the fact that 2K bought Codemasters, the guys who make, a couple racing games, for $1.2 billion, and then you got Insomniac, who's giving you Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales, an upcoming Wolverine game, a Spider-Man sequel, Ratchet and Clank. It's unbelievable the output that this team has produced in the past couple of years, and really, without this team, I think the entire narrative behind the PS5 would be completely different. Without Miles Morales, without Ratchet and Clank, without the remaster of the Spider-Man 2018 game, there wouldn't be a lot to talk about on that console. But this team came and basically put the Sony on their back and said, hold my beer, I got this. And and really, really proved why they're some of the best developers in the world. And it's not just their game production. When they release games, they make sure that their games are performing as best as they can. They were, I think, the first team out there to really implement the fidelity and performance mode kind of merger, right, where you're not having to settle for 60 frames but no ray tracing. They were able to do a 60 frames with ray tracing. It was dialed down a little bit, but they figured out a way to do it. And again, man, like I just 229 million versus Bethesda's 7 point whatever billion. It's just it's insane to me. I think Insomniac is easily like a $5 to $6 billion team, and they've been working with Sony for a long time, so maybe that had something to do with it, as they just had some sort of relationship, or there's some behind closed doors clause in there. But and with Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine coming out, in the future, it seems like they're just lapping everybody. I don't know how they do it. In an age where everybody's taking ages and ages and ages to make games, they just seem to be the ones that have it figured out. So yeah, man, Insomniac is pretty awesome. Yeah,
that's why they're my number 1. They have for years now, even when they made one game for Microsoft, Sunset Overdrive, all their games are just awesome. They're consistent. They come out at a consistent cadence. They're just a reliable studio that's kind of been under the radar for a long time until they got Spider-Man, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, Insomniac, look what they do. They record 2 different voice tracks for Spider-Man, one where he's swinging and one where he's standing still. Like, who goes to that level of detail? Insomniac does. And their games are so good, they play so well, they look so good. As you mentioned, all the different performance modes that you can get out of their game, so you can fine-tune that game to how you want to play it. It's incredible. And for them last year during the Sony showcase to not show just their next project, to show their next new projects, Spider-Man 2, which I'm sure is very high on everyone's list, the most anticipated, and that the fact that they're doing Wolverine. I just want to let that sit in. John, let it sit in. Let it sit in, John.
That is your wet dream.
They're making a Wolverine game. Everyone just take that in. The team that made Spider-Man is going to do a standalone Wolverine game, and they are doing that on top of Spider-Man 2. It's like, that's my most anticipated game ever. Not even just Sony first party, just Marvel's Wolverine.
Got it.
Yeah, bring
God,
it.
I hope it's rated M, man. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I know there's been rumors of people that working on the game saying it is a more serious tone, but I would love it if it's, the Logan and not the X-Men origins of Wolverine stuff, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But
right now, anything's possible. We only got that teaser trailer, but Insomniac, you're amazing. Yeah. I love you.
Well, and the thing that they do, like the understated thing, is their games are just fun, right? It's rare that a game comes out where there's just a mechanic in the game that I'd be happy to do for a long, long, long time. And go away, Kylie. Sorry, that's my wife, everybody. And I could swing around New York for hours. It's just fun to swing. They have a way about their, Ratchet and Clank. It's just fun. It's fun to find out what the next gun is. Sunset Overdrive. It's just wacky, crazy shit. And so, you never know, where the fun's going to come, but you're going to have it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And I would like to point out a fun little fact that John's son loves this game. So how many recorded hours do you have in Spider-Man?
So Spider-Man, as Levi, my son, loves to call it Peter Parker. He just calls the game Peter Parker because it's, that's the Spider-Man in it. So the first one, we have about 224 hours. I've probably beaten that game 6 times. And then Miles Morales, who's his #1 superhero, we probably have like 260 hours in, and everybody, if you haven't played it, it takes about 6 hours to beat that game. So I'll let you do the math on that one. He loves Spider-Man, but I realized he has this weird obsession with just collecting and like unlocking. So he always wants to. He gets all the suits. We reset the game. He then just gets all the suits again. He's platinum those games. He's a little 5-year-old kid that just can do everything in those games. But he can't get enough of it.
Well, I think that's just a testament to the game again and to them, because it's like not only is he enjoying it, but like it's not. I know you're probably sick of the game, but it could be a lot worse games that you could be playing. So.
Oh no! Yeah. Anybody who has kids knows that. Children like repetition, they like familiarity, and so for him to latch on to I had no qualms about that. Compared to another game that I can't seem to shake, which is Descenders, is a downhill mountain biking game that he is also obsessed with. So yeah, I'll take Spider-Man all day long.
Yep, we love you, Insomniac. All right, John.
Yes.
We know what your #1 is. Why are they your #1?
I just think that there's not a team out there that has the level of, it's Naughty Dog, that has the level of attention to detail that these guys do. I think that they're masterful storytellers where every time you go into a game, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to be sad, you're going to be happy. The characters that they develop are untouchable to me when it comes to video game characters. I think Ellie is maybe the best written video game character I've ever experienced. And when you combine her with Joel, and the story and the bleakness of that world and how real that world feels, I think it's truly, they're the only team in the world that could make that game. And Uncharted, I don't need to say much more about Uncharted that can't be said about Last of Us, but it's the Indiana Jones knockoff, just a pulp action adventure thing that everybody always wanted. And is the shooting the best? No, it's serviceable though, but that's not why we're playing those games. It's similar to something like Mass Effect, right? Where people, when they talk about Mass Effect, they're talking about the relationships and the characters that you get to experience. It's not necessarily that I'm having fun doing headshots, but when they released Last of Us 2, I think they really finally got the combat down. So I'm really excited to see now that they obviously know the story, they obviously know how to build characters. Now that they got the gameplay down as well, it's just so exciting. Last of Us 1 getting the remake, I'm curious to see how that feels to play now, and then going forward past this, what's the next original IP from Naughty Dog, man? Like, I can't wait. When the Last of Us was announced the first time, I remember not being too excited because I think I was just getting into Uncharted, and I just wanted more of that. And I was like, what is this going to be? Like, this isn't going to be as good. And then for it to come out and say, oh, no, man, like, it's Uncharted on steroids, just really shows the proof of, how creative this team is. And I think with somebody like Neil Druckmann at the head of that organization, I believe he's even the president now, full confidence in them. And I think if Sony was an entity on this podcast, they would also put Naughty Dog as their number one. I think that's just the level of confidence that Sony leadership has in them, and so they'll let them do whatever they want. And anytime, as we've talked about earlier in this podcast, anytime you let a creative team do what they want to do, you're going to get a much better thing than somebody who's being told what to do, which I think is more Microsoft's, at least seems to be the way that they kind of operate. Naughty Dog can do no wrong to me. That's why the discussion around The Last of Us 2 was so frustrating, but we don't have to get into that. But they're the best in the world to me.
Yeah, and with the upcoming HBO show, all eyes will be on them again, as a whole new audience will be introduced to their games and their characters, which is very exciting.
Yes.
All right. Well, we did it again. That's 6 things. We will be back next week with another 6 things. I hope to check out some Stray, so hopefully I'll have some impressions next week as that launches. But John, what song are we leaving everybody with today?
So we're going to kick it off with one of our Toby Fox jams. I think this is probably the most recognizable / most famous song in the game, called Megalovania. It's just some battle music that kicks off kind of towards the latter half of the game, and it's fucking rad, you guys, so enjoy.
Yeah, everyone enjoy the music, and again, we'll be back next week. See you then. Bye, everyone.
Take care, guys.